Shalom everyone and welcome to Busisiwe, blessed in English, Baruch in Hebrew, which means increase, fruitfulness, and multiplication. My name is Abigail. We continue with the teaching on the series Hashatan, the adversary, or and the imposter. We are now looking at the ways in which Hasatan, the opposer or the challenger, the one who challenges or adversary of Yahuah, how he challenges Yahuah or how he challenges that which is of Yahuah. We read about it also in the book of Second Thessalonians chapter 3, that the man of lawlessness exalts himself, and the man of lawlessness who opposes that which is of Yahuah and exalts himself as of Yahuah. So let's now continue in looking at in what ways does he oppose that which is, or challenge that which is of Yahuah. We're going to be looking at the day of rest. Now, the day of rest, Yahuah told us that Shabat is the day of, the seventh day is the day of rest. And he actually told us that this is a sign, this is the mark. Remember when we were closing in the book of Revelations chapter 13, in the previous teaching, Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 to 17, it talks about that Hasatan gave people a mark, the mark of the beast, of which if anyone refused to accept it, they would not be able to buy or sell. As the word, it says that he causes both small and great, rich and poor, to have a mark on their right hand, that anyone who refuses it will not be able to buy or sell. And what is that mark? But I spoke about this before, and I've been saying that a lot of people focus on the mark of the beast. So their minds is so channeled to be doing things out of fear of Hasatan, or out of fear of the beast or hell, instead of doing things out of love for Yahuah, out of wanting to be serving Yahuah. And as a result, I spoke about the importance of knowing that which is legit, that which is genuine. Once you know that which is legit, once you know that which is genuine, you will be able to tell where an imposter comes about. You'll be able to tell when the counterfeit is coming about, and you'll be able to resist it. So let us focus on that which is genuine, that which is legit, and then we'll be able to distinguish with the fake or the counterfeit is brought about. I always give this example. I said in my first job, I worked at the bank, and when we were working at the bank, because there's so much counterfeit of notes, in terms of the currency, the paper money, we were taught thoroughly before we even started first day at the bank. This was 1996. Yeah, it was 1996. I was doing matric then. So I was working at the bank as a part-time as a student. They taught us this is the genuine. We knew every aspect of the genuine money, so that when anyone comes with the fake, then we can be able to compare it against the genuine money and say this is not legit, this is not genuine. Because if we're to learn that which is counterfeit, these people are so creative out there. Hasatan himself will always come up with things that are opposing, that are counterfeit. So at what point are you going to stop, or are you going to learn? So rather know that which is of genuine. And that's why I speak about know the mark of Yahuah. Once you know the mark of Yahuah, then you will know that which is of Hasatan. And once you have the mark, this is very important. You cannot have two marks on you. You cannot have two marks on your forehead. You can either have the mark, the Father's name on your forehead, which is the Father's name, or you're going to have a mark of the beast on your forehead. You cannot have both. You will not have both. You will either have the mark of Yahuah or the mark of the beast. So choose wisely while you still have the time. Choose wisely while you still can. Choose the mark of Yahuah. Then Hasatan cannot beat his mark on top of the mark of Yahuah. So what is the mark of Yahuah? He tells us that in his word, the mark of Yahuah is his Shabat. And where do we find that? We find that in the book of Shamut or Exodus chapter 31 verse 13, and it reads, "Speak to the children of Yasharal, saying, my Shabaut you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign, it is a mark. My what? My Shabaut is to be a sign. Sorry, you are to guard by all means." I love the emphasis that we get in the word. By all means. Why? It's gonna be hard. When everybody else is walking this direction, when everybody else is doing something, it's gonna be hard for you to follow Yahuah. I used to hear people saying that. I used to when I was working at Sasol, I used to work with that lady. We were staying at Sasol back at the time. She was Catholic, and then she says to me, "No, Abigail, Catholic must be the right religion, must be the correct religion, because look at the numbers." Somehow she believed that anything is right because of the numbers. But Yahuah tells us the opposite. Yahuah tells us, he says to us that broader is the way that leads to destruction, and many are in it. Numbers are in this broader way that leads into destruction. And then he says, narrower is the path that leads to everlasting life, that leads to eternal life. Narrow is the path, and few find it. So at any point in time when you're not sure what are you to do, check the numbers. If the majority of the people are doing something, go the opposite direction. Go the opposite direction. I'm actually reminded of the dream that my son had. It's some time ago. I think he probably was 15 or 14 when he had that dream. And in this dream there was a huge wind, a whirlwind that was taking place. People were dying as they were being blown away by this wind. And as people are running away from the wind, as being blown by this wind, he says that he heard a voice in the dream saying that he were to run the opposite direction. And everybody else is running facing, let's say, the northern direction, facing front direction. And he was told by this voice to run backwards or in reverse. What he was doing was contrary to what the majority was doing. All the majority was running front ways, and he was told to run reverse, which is even harder. It's easy to run forward than to run backward. But the word that spoke to me in the dream at that early tender age of 14, 15, it said to him, run backwards. And when the wind, and he says that when he was running, he could see all the people that are wearing these clothes, like of the archbishops or the bishops or the popes and stuff like that, like the religious men, people. They were all running in that majority. And he said there were very few. He was amongst the few that were running the reverse direction, which he said he believed that the same people that were running like him must have heard the word that he heard. And when the wind subsided, or when the wind ceased, all the people that were running, which were the majority in the front direction, they all died, they all perished. And the only one that survived, which included him as he was looking around, my son, was the few that ran against the tide, against the majority. Difficult as it was to run in the reverse, the things of Yahuah do not go with majority. It's going to take you out of the way. That's why then the word says, guard my Shabaut by all means, because you're going to be challenged. People are going to be questioning It's like we're talking again with my son about the whole issue of philosophy, which is a study of questioning everything. Why can't I do this? What about this? The things of Yahuah are accepted by belief, by trusting Him. You don't question Him. I mean, think about what would have happened if my son said, but why must I run the opposite direction? Everybody else is running front way. It's going to be hard. He would have been perished with the many other people. You don't question Yahuah. You accept what He says because He loves us. He cares for us. He knows what is best for us. When He gives an instruction, He doesn't have to explain Himself to us. Our responsibility is to trust Him. Trust because of His love, not out of fear. We trust that what He tells us is for our benefit. It is for our good. I also spoke about the dream that I had. I had this dream in May, I think it was the 1st of May 2020, where in the dream I had a man who told me that I must come out of Christianity. I mean, for me, I responded back to the man that spoke to me, and then I said, where must I go? Where must I fellowship? And my children, they go to church with their mates and their peers. Where must they fellowship? Where must they worship? He told me these words 5 years ago, 2020. Come out of Christianity because of the mixing and the religion that has been put in, and the tares that the weeds that the enemy has brought into that which was original word of Yahuah in the assembly. And when I asked him that question, when I said to him, where must I go? What must I do? What about my children? He didn't answer me. Why? Because it's Alua. He doesn't have to explain himself to us. And that's why we need to guard His word. And that's why He said the same thing to Yahusha, the son of Nun. He said, be strong and courageous to guard my commandments, to guard my instructions. He didn't say be strong and courageous to fight the Canaanites or the Kittites or the giants or all the ites or the Jebusites or the Philistines. No. You need courage to obey the word of Yahuah against when everybody else is doing the opposite. And we're like, but everybody it can't be that everybody else is wrong. It can. It happens most of the time. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuah. Halal Yahuah. He tells us, he then says that speak to the children of Yasharal, saying, my Shabaut are to God, you are to God by all means, for it is a sign, it is a mark between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I, Yahuah, am setting you apart. It is a sign, a mark between Him, Yahuah, and us. So, anyone that does not guard the Shabaut, what is it saying when Yahuah tells us that this is to be a mark, this is to be a sign between Him and us? He says that through this Shabaut, through you observing and guarding my Shabaut, it is the sign that you are set apart. Set apart from what? From the majority. Set apart from what? Set apart from the rest. Set apart from what? Set apart from that which presents itself as if it is of Yahuah and it is not. Hasatan, who comes as an imposter. Yahuah tells us that the day of rest is the 7th day of the week. It is a mark. Contrary to that, the imposter, the one who challenges Yahuah, he says the day of rest is Sunday. He says the day of rest is the first day of the week. Yahuah says the day of rest is the 7th day of the week. And Hasatan comes and says, no, it is the first. And now you're going to say, oh, but the majority are doing it. What is Yahuah says? What did Yahuah say? Has he changed his word? He is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He is not a man that he should lie. He doesn't say something and then, what's the word? Renegts. I'm running out of the English word. Retracts. He doesn't retract what he has said. Thank you. That is very important. So, when we then look at this challenge, we now look into detail. Why are we to obey Yahuah when he says to us, the day of rest is the seventh day, and the enemy, the adversary, the opposer, the one who is challenging Yahuah and that which is of Yahuah, he says the first day of the week. If we look at the Tanakh, I spoke about the Tanakh. Tanakh is an acronym that stands for the Torah, which is instructions or the law or the commandments. The Nabim, the N stands for the Nabim, which is the prophets. And then the K stands for the Ketubim, which is the writings. The Ketubims or the writings make reference to the Torah or the Nabim. The writings, they write of the instructions, they write of the prophets. It's not just in isolation. The writings are not to be a new law altogether. No, it is to remind us of something that already exists either in the Torah or in the instructions or the law or in the prophets or the Nabim. It is to amplify, explain further that which is already explained in the Torah or in the Nabim. That's why we're able to correct this issue of plural and singular, alua and let us, because we're able to do that through the scripture holistically. The word tells us that in the mouth of two or three witnesses, every word is established. That is another protection that we have. We should be able to say whatever is said in a particular, in the writings, is it do we see it in alignment with that which is already in the Torah or in the Nabim or in the prophets? Or is there conflict? So now if we read the instructions, which is the Torah, the fourth commandment is found in the book of Shamut or Exodus chapter 20 verse 8 to 11, and it says, remember the Shabbat yom or day to set it apart. 6 days you shall labor and do all your works, but the seventh day is a Shabbat of Yahuah your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male, nor your servant, nor female, nor cattle, stranger, anything, any stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuah made the Shamayim and on them and the earth or the earth, the sea, and all that is in it, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore Yahuah blessed the Shabbat and set it apart. He instructs us in the 10 commandments. So anyone then, this is the fourth commandment. Anyone then who now says that no, we don't have to follow the Shabbat anymore, we can now observe the first day of the week. Says who? Who are you listening to? Who is instructing you? Who is commanding you? You might not have heard the words of whoever came with this instruction, but by you doing the practice, you are practicing that which is contrary to what Yahuah told us. You are practicing that which is against the law, the instruction of Yahuah. So you are practicing lawlessness. And 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 speaks of the man of lawlessness, against the Torah, against the instructions, against the law, against the commands. So what does that mean now? You are not, just like they changed the names of people, replaced the name of Yahuah, now they can also change even the 10 commandments, that the day of rest is no longer the seventh day of the week, but it is the first day of the week. We need to repent. It doesn't mean that because everyone is doing it, it is right. What is Yahuah telling us? That's what he said when he came looking for Adam in the cool of the day, because Adam was not there. And when Yahuah called for him, he said, Adam, Adam, where are you? And then Adam said, I hid because I was naked. And Yahuah said, who told you that you are naked? Who told you that you are naked? Who told you that the seventh day is no longer the day of worship, but it is now the first day of the week? The one whom you are now following, that's the one. The one whom you are now following, his instruction, his command, that's the person that you are now worshiping. That's the person whom you are now serving. But the imposter makes you think that you are serving Yahuah. The imposter makes you think that you are worshiping Yahuah. And I speak this with a very sad heart, because I was also in that situation where I was worshiping on Sunday. But Yahuah, being a just judge, he would not have sent me to hell or destroyed me or caused me to perish because I didn't know. I always say this even when my children ask me to say, what about the people that did not know what you now know? Yahuah is fair. Actually, it's fair is not even the right term. He's just. He's not a fair person. He's just. He will judge people according to the knowledge they have, the access to what they have. If someone chooses not to listen and say, no, I'm not going to listen to Abigail or anyone else who speak like this, then you chose not to hear. Then your blood is in your hand. But someone who've never known, never heard such messages, then Yahuah will judge them accordingly. Hence, I go back to the message of what Yahushua told us in Matthew chapter 24. He says, this message of the kingdom shall be proclaimed in all the world, in all the earth, as a witness, so that no one can have an excuse. No one can say, I did not know. And then the end will come, because he's a just judge. He cannot come and judge people for what they did not know. So let us proclaim the truth, and let us hear the word of Yahuah without wanting to debate, without wanting to be winning the argument or the debate, or without being full of pride and arrogant that we know this better. Certain people, they would say, I went to this Bible school. I've got not only a degree in theology, I probably have a PhD in theology. Who is this Abigail? Which Bible school did you go to? True, I didn't go to any Bible school, and I'm glad. I'm so glad that I didn't study theology, that Yahuah can teach me his word himself. Otherwise, I would have a lot of things to dish out from my mind of the traditions of men. It is a commandment, the fourth commandment of the 10 commandments that hasn't changed. Shamul, or Exodus chapter 31 verse 13, it reads, and you speak to the children of Yasharal, saying, my Shabaut you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generation. So it is not only for certain people, because then the enemy comes, the very same Hasatan, the very same adversary, the very same one who opposes Yahuah. He's going to lie in so many ways and says, no, the Shabbat is for the Jews. The Shabbat is for the Jews. You are not Jew. No. The Bible, the word does not talk about, he says, these are my Shabaut. Yahuah says, these are my Shabaut. It didn't say it's for the Jews. It's his word, not for certain people. And anyone, whether they're from Yehuda or from Judah, or anyone from Greek, or from anyone who's from Greek or from Rome, or any person from, doesn't matter where you come from, all the nations, there is only one Torah. There is only one instruction. There's not one for certain people, for Yasharal only, or for Jews only. The Yahuah speaks about that there is only one Torah. And this is not only limited to the early emissaries who observed the Shabbat. It's not only limited to Yahuah, who also observed the Shabbat and guarded it when he was here on earth. It says from generations to generations. It's forever. To know that I am Yahuah, am setting you apart. It is a sign of knowing who are the people that have been set apart from the world unto Yahuah. Set apart from what? Set apart from the world. Set apart into what? Set apart into Yahuah. So every time when you talk about the word, I spoke about this, that there are words that makes us lose the essence of what was meant. Like when you think about holy, you just think about something that is pure, that is white, that is glittering. Holy it should have been translated as set apart. When he says, be holy for I am holy, it says, be set apart for I am set apart. He is set apart from the other mighty ones, from the other gods. He is not like them. He's set apart. And he calls us to also be set apart. And here is the painful truth. Without, I'm going to say it in the translation that we are all used to, without being holy, no man can sin Yahuah. Now then that means without being set apart, no one will see Yahuah. Are you set apart? Praise Yahuah. Halal Yahuah. Verse 14. I'm still reading on Exodus chapter 31 verse 14 says, and you shall guard the Shabbat, for it is kadosh to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death. For anyone who does work on it and that being shall be cut off from among the people. And people say that, oh, I'm still alive, I didn't guard the Shabbat, or I didn't observe the Shabbat, I did not, I'm still alive, I did not die. And verse 14 says, anyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Yahuah said to Adam, on the day that you eat of this fruit, you shall surely die. But he didn't die immediately. He didn't die immediately. He continued to live. Then someone, probably the Hasatanim, will say, you see, Yahuah was joking when he said you're going to die. Look, you are still living. You are not dead. But the word also tells us that a day in Yahuah is like 1,000 years. And 1,000 years is like a day. The word tells us that Adam died when he was 970 years of age. And the word also tells us in the book of Jubilee that the reason why he died at 970 was because Yahuah said, the day you eat of it, you shall die. So he did not live up until 1,000 years, because 1,000 years is a day. He lived 30 years short of a day. 30 years short of 1,000 years. So don't ever say, oh no, I'm still alive. You could just be existing but not living. You are existing, you're breathing, but you're not living. And the punishment, the judgment of Yahuah is not only to happen on the judgment day, when in the end times, when the people are raised, the dead are raised to life to be judged. No. You are already walking under curse when you're walking under disobedience. Why? Because you're following Hasatan, whose mission is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So it might look like everything is well with you, just like a tree that could be green for some days, but if the roots are dead, it's a matter of time before the tree collapses. Verse 15. 6 days work is to be done, and on the 7th day is a day of rest, set apart unto Yahuah. Everyone doing work on the Shabbat day shall certainly be put to death. And the children of Yasharal shall guard the Shabbat, to observe the Shabbat throughout their generations, and as an everlasting covenant between me and the children of Yasharal is a sign forever. And someone will then come and say, all right, this verse refers to the children of Yasharal. I am not of the children of Yasharal. No, the word talks about that Yasharal, through Yasharal, Yahuah revealed himself to the world through Yasharal, just as he revealed himself to the world through Yahusha, Hamashiach. And that the world can be united, can be reconciled to him through Yasharal. So you are Yasharal by birth or by descent, isn't by blood, from Jacob, as in from the 12 tribes or 12 sons of Jacob, or by conversion, by believing in Yahuah and in his commandments. So you are adopted into Yasharal. The word, so many scriptures have spoken about this adoption into Yasharal, and then you become one with Yasharal. There's no longer a distinction when you are in Yasharal. The commandments that are and instructions that are applicable to Yasharal, they're applicable to you as well, because you are now engrafted. Romans, I think it's Romans chapter 3 that talks about, I've also taught about this in the covenant, about being engrafted, both the wild branch being engrafted into the olive tree, as well as the natural branch, and all forming part of this one olive tree in Yahuah. So there is no, so if you say that you are not Yasharal, then what are you? Because there are only two kingdoms. There's only the kingdom of Yahuah, and he's reflecting his kingdom through Yasharal, and the kingdom of Hasatan. There's a kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. There is his word or Hasatan's deception. There is no middle ground. For 6 days Yahuah made the Shamayim and the Arets, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And when he had ended speaking with him on Mount Sinai, speaking to Moshe, he gave Moshe the 2 tablets of the witness, the tablets of stone written with his finger, the finger of Yahuah. This is where the 10 commandments were written, and through that he also spoke about the Shabbat. Not only did he talk and tell Moshe, but he also wrote it down as a 4th of the 10 commandments. If we read the book of Yobelim or Jubilees chapter 2 from verse 17 to 22, it reads, and he finished all his work on the 6th day, all that is in the Shamayim and all that's in the Arets and in the seas, in the abysses, in the light, in the darkness, and in everything. And he gave us a great sign. So Shabaut is a great sign, not just a sign, a great sign. And this Malak, or this angel that was narrating the story of creation to Moshe, told Moshe that Yahuah gave, including the Malakim, including the angels, a great sign, the Shabbat, that we should work 6 days, but guard the Shabbat on the 7th day from all work, on the 7th day. And all the angels of the presence and all the angels of the sanctification, these 2 great classes, he has bidden us to guard the Shabbat with him in the Shamayim and on the Arets. This is serious. This is serious business. Yahuah, the book of Yobelim or Jubilees tells us that Yahuah even appointed the great classes of Malakim, the great classes of angels, being the angels of the presence, or the class of the presence, and the class of the sanctification, that they should bid us to guard the Shabbat in the Shamayim and on the so the Shabbat is not only guarded or observed in the in the Aretz or in the earth, but it is also observed in the Shamayim, in the heaven. And then those people with philosophy and questioning everything, they're gonna say, oh, is it the first day? Where does it say first day of the week? Is it not the first day of the month? How are you gonna trace the first day of the seventh day of the of the month? Because even how the first day of the month, we are told, the book of Enoch tells us that the first day of the month, we can notice it or we can know it by the sliver light, to that thin light on the moon, which is called the sliver light. But what happens when there is rain? What happens on a cloudy day, foggy day, when you can't see the moon? How are you going to know which is the first day? He made it so simple and so practical with us that it works in a pattern. There are days, there are weeks, there are months, there are years, and there are jubilees of years, and there is millennia. Systematically, 7 days of the weeks, it's a Shabbat. 7 weeks, which about, what is it, just over 2 months. I think 7 weeks. 7 weeks, it will be 4, 8, 12. Some of it, the third month. That's when we celebrate the Festival of Weeks, otherwise known as Pentecost, Shabaut, with celebration of weeks, which is made, which the month is then included in the weeks. It systematically helps us. And then, so you've got 7 days of the week, we celebrate Shabbat. 7 weeks, then it's Shabaut, or Feast of Shabaut, otherwise known as Pentecost. And then the 7th month, so you've got days, weeks, month. The 7th month, that's where we celebrate, according to the appointed times written in the book of Leviticus chapter 23, the Day of Atonement, the festival Yom Teruah, and as well as, or the Day of Shouts, as well as the Feast of Sukkot, or Feast of Tabernacles. It's on the 7th month. And then there are 7 years, because after 7 years, then the land must rest. So it's systematically days, weeks, months, years, years of years, which is 7 years. That's when the land must rest. And then Jubilee, which is 49 years. Why are we complicating matters that Yahuah has simplified for us? Because we want to argue, because we want to debate what he's already told us, or how it cannot be done, or who said what. It's a big question. I always say, when someone asks a question, why are you asking? Do you ask because you genuinely want to know, or you just asking because you want to debate, or you want to argue, you want to prove your point, or you want to stand your position? These angels were bidded by Yahuah that will help us also guard the Shabbat here on the Aretz, even as they guard it in the Shamayim. The angels of the presence and the angels of the sanctification. And he said unto us, behold, I will separate unto myself a people from among the peoples, and these shall guard the Shabbat, and I will sanctify them unto myself as my people, and will bless them as I have sanctified the Shabbat, and do sanctify it unto myself. Even so will I bless them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Yahuah. His people is seen through their sanctification, or being set apart, as they observe, as they guard the Shabbat. And by so doing, not only did he bless the day, as the word tells us, that he blessed the 7th day, for in 6 days he created everything. Not only did he bless the day, but he also blesses the people that guard that day that is blessed. So we are blessed. We are baruched by observing the Shabbat. Sibusisiwe by observing Isabata. Continuing. And I have chosen the seed of Jacob from among all that I have seen, and have written in him down as my firstborn, and have sanctified him unto myself forever and ever. I will teach them the Shabbat. So because we didn't know this, because of the deception that has come upon us, Yahuah is teaching us himself. As he says, I will teach them the Shabbat, that they may guard the Shabbat thereon from all work. And thus he created therein a sign in accordance with which they should guard the Shabbat with us on the seventh day, to eat and to drink and to bless him who has created all things. And he has blessed and sanctified unto himself a peculiar people above all people, and that they should guard the Shabbat together. If you go and read again this book of Jubilees, which you can find on the internet, you can just Google Jubilees chapter 2, you will see it even says that the Shabbat, the Malakim or the angels guarded the Shabbat together with Yahuah in the Shamayim before even men were taught of the Shabbat. So before we even knew about the Shabbat, which we were created on the sixth day, mankind were created on the sixth day, they already knew of the Shabbat. They already taught. They already knew of it. Hence, they taught us the Shabbat. Now, I've quoted so many scriptures in line of what I said, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established, and that whatever we find in the writings or in the ketubim is coming from the instruction. All the scriptures that I referred to right now about the Shabbat were from the instructions or from the Torah, which we read in the book of Barashith or Genesis speaks of the Shabbat, Shamut or Exodus speaks of the Shabbat, even Yobelim or Jubilees, also part of the Torah or the instruction speaks of the Shabbat. So let's look at the Nabim or the prophets. Do we see any writings concerning the Shabbat in the prophets? Because Yahuah says that he did not come to abolish the law or the prophets, but he came to fulfill them, to fulfill that which is in the instructions or in the Torah and in the Nabim or the prophets. So what is it? What does it say in the prophets? Yakaskal or Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 12 and verse 22 reads, Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 12, it reads, and I also gave them my Shabaut to be a sign between them and me, to know that I am Yahuah who sets them apart. It's also quoted by the prophet Ezekiel. The correct name is Yakaskal. Verse 20, and it says, and set apart my Shabaut, and they shall be a sign between me and you, to know that I am Yahuah, your Aloah. This is another sign. This is another mark. When the beast speaks of its own mark, of its own sign, in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 and 17, Yahuah tells us this is the real mark. This is the genuine mark. This is the legit mark, this which you should have. And if you have this, any other thing is not my sign. It is a sign of Hasatan. Are you observing the sign of Yahuah, or the sign of the one who challenges that which is of Yahuah? Are you observing the sign, the mark of Yahuah, or of the impostor, of Hasatan, the adversary, the opposer, the one who exalts himself against everything that is of Yahuah? Yirmiyahu chapter 16 verse 21 to 22, it reads, or Jeremiah chapter 16 verse 21 to 22, it says, thus says Yahuah, guard yourself and bear no burden on the Shabbat day or the Shabbat Yom, nor bring it in by the gates of Yerushalayim, nor take a burden out of your house or on the Shabbat yom, nor do any work, and you shall set apart the Shabbat yom or Shabbat day, as I commanded your fathers. But they did not obey or incline their ear, and they made their neck stiff, not to hear and not to receive the instructions. So our forefathers are the ones that started disobeying the commandment of Yahuah concerning the Shabbat. Our forefathers, Yasharal, started disobeying Yahuah concerning the Shabbat being set apart because they were stiff-necked. They did not receive the instruction. They followed the gods of the land in which they were living in. They followed the ways of the people in which they were living in. And hence the curses came upon Yasharal as listed in the book of Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 28. The day of Shabbat is supposed to be the day honoring Yahuah, worshiping Yahuah, the day of celebration, the day of joy, of eating and feasting and drinking, giving thanks to him. That's why even in the wilderness, he gave on the 6th day of the week, they were to collect twice as much of the manna on the 6th day of the week, so that on the 7th day they're in within their places enjoying and not going to collect the manna. Those that tried to go and collect it, it wasn't there. It was not there. Those who tried to reserve and say that they want to eat it the following day, when Yahuah said they were supposed to eat them in each day except on day 6, like day 1 to day 5, they were supposed to have, as he says in Matthew chapter 6, give us our daily bread, fresh bread from above. They didn't want to go and get the fresh bread the following day, and it rot and it was stinking. They couldn't eat it. But on the 6th day only, they were able to keep twice as much the portion so that they don't go out on the 7th day. And he did the very same thing also concerning the land of rest, where people then asked, this is found in the book of Jubilees, in the book of Leviticus, yes, the book of Leviticus chapter 20, I believe it is chapter 25, if not 26, somewhere there. Leviticus chapter 20, I think it's chapter 25. Leviticus chapter 25, it speaks of the Jubilee, and it talks about the land that it must rest the 7th year. And they asked the people to say, but how are we going to eat? And then Yahuah explains it in, as it is written in the book of Leviticus chapter 25, that he would cause increase on the land, that on the whatever they are sowing, they'll be able to eat it on the 7th year. They will also eat it. So whatever that the produce that comes on the 6th year, they'll be able to, it will sustain them for for 3 years. It will sustain them for that year, being the 6th year. It will sustain them for the 7th year, and will also sustain them for the 8th year, because in the 8th year, which is if you look at the cycle, the first year, they are plowing again. So you can't plow and reap or harvest at the same time. So Yahuah knows this thing. He plans it for us. He does not do it. I mean, after all, he created us. He knows us. He knows what's best for us. So he knew that in the year that you are sowing, you're not going to harvest. So what are you going to eat? Hence, the produce of the 6th year was for 3 years, was to cover them for 3 years. So that's what he tells us to do. And now, as we stop on this particular teaching concerning the Shabbat, on the next session we'll then be looking at how Hasatan has challenged the day of rest being the first day of the week, and where is this day of the first day of the week being the day of rest? How did it come about? Because it is opposing that which is of Yahuah. Shalom.